entire story started in the 6th century CE when the Muslims split into two groups over a disagreement about who the rightful imam is. This split created two different groups of Muslims known as the Sunni and the Shia, aka the Shiite Muslims. This splitting in groups seemed to be a common theme within the Muslims, as later in the 8th century CE, a group of Shiite Muslims split off from the others. This new group of the Shiite Muslims became known as the Ismailis due to their loyalty towards Ismaili. This group believed Ismaili had already been nominated to be the next Imam, even though he had died 5 years before his father, Jafar as-Sadiq, in 760 CE. Therefore, the Ismailis believed Ismaili's son, Muhammad al-Mahdi, should be the 7th Imam.
The Shias, on the other hand, believed that Ismaili's brother, Musa al-Kazim, should be the next Imam.
This disagreement is what led to the split of the Shiite Muslims in the 8th century. Due to their beliefs, the Ismailis were seen as heretics, or a group that doesn't follow the religious or popular opinion, by both the Shias and the Sunnis. Even later, in the 11th century, there was another split, this time among the Ismailis. Due to their disappointment at the Fatimid Caliphate or the Fatimid Empire run by the Ismailis in Egypt, a new group of Ismailis split off from the others after a dynastic dispute. This group became known as the Nizari Ismailis, named after the preferred candidate for caliph, Abu Mansur Nizar, though these Nizari Ismailis are more commonly known as the Assassins. The Nizari Ismailis were first led by a missionary from Egypt known as Hassan ibn al-Sabah, or the first ever assassin. Under his rule, the Nizari Ismailis formed a new political religious community and set up bases around Persia. Each and every member that joined this community were trained, educated, and then initiated. Before initiation, though, members had to swear complete and absolute obedience and loyalty to the leader. After all of this, members get ranked according to courage, reliability, and knowledge. These assassins continued to grow and grow, and because of this, they were able to capture, build, and acquire a string of castles and strongholds built atop mountains between 1130 and 1151 CE. Most of these castles were built in Syria and were mainly made up of stone, concrete, and wooden upper structures. Some of these castles include Eridin Castle, Shadiz Castle, Sauro Castle, Gurdka Castle, Lamsar Castle, Maimundiz Castle, Sharan Castle, Balas Castle, Kaf Castle, Kawabi Castle, Banias Castle, and finally, the two most important castles, Masyaf and Alamut Castle. Now, you may be asking, why are these two seemingly random castles so important? First of all, the Masyaf Castle. This fortress was captured in 1141 CE and was essentially the capital of an assassin mini-state located in Syria. This stronghold had complex defensive arrangements and included concentric walls as well as a castle keep. Alamut Castle was the most important castle out of all of them though, simply due to the fact that it was the first ever castle to be taken by the Nizari Ismailis in 1090 CE and was the headquarters of the assassins located in Persia. This castle was also the home of the leader of the Nizari Ismailis, known as the Old Man of the Mountain, or Sheikh Rashid al-Din Sinan, who ruled from 1169 to 1193 CE. By the 13th century, the Nizari Ismailis as a group had grown tremendously, having Nizari Ismailis all around the Middle East in many places in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Arabia, and Persia. Now for the main part of this story, what the Nizari Ismailis actually did and how they did it. The assassins almost always worked and did missions in small teams. These teams almost always used knives for their assassinations and sometimes wore disguises, dressing as people like monks, beggars, and ascetics. These teams were also never actually meant to survive their missions though. The Nizari Ismaili were extremely committed to the cause in the Old Man of the Mountain. So much so that they were always willing to die for it and were known as Feda'in, aka Suicide Commandos. No one really knows why they were so willing to die, but it was theorized that they took mind-altering drugs known as hashish before each mission. This would explain their willingness to die for the cause and their high success rate, but it's never really been confirmed. These assassinations were also usually carried out in public, crowded places in order to emphasize the message they were trying to spread. The Nizari Ismailis had many victims over the years. A few of the most notable targets and victims include Nizam al-Mulk, Raymond II, Saladin, and the Conrad of Monteferrat. Nizam al-Mulk was the powerful vizier of Baghdad and was murdered on October 14, 1092 CE. Raymond II was the Count of Tripoli and was the assassin's first Christian victim. Raymond was murdered in 1152 CE, most likely due to the fact that he had given the Knights Hospitaller, a medieval Catholic military order, a large area of land near one of the assassin strongholds, upsetting them. Saladin was a sultan or ruler of Egypt and Syria at the time. Saladin was not actually killed though, he was only a near victim. He was a Sunni Muslim and had earlier declared publicly that all Muslim heretics would be crucified. This included the Nizari Ismailis, so naturally this made them mad. In 1175 CE, they made their first attempt with a group of 13 assassins, but failed to get close to him. A year later, in 1176 CE, they tried again. This time, it was much closer, as a group of 4 assassins managed to pierce Saladin's armor and slice his cheek, but were murdered by his bodyguards before they could do anything else major. These 2 failed attempts did result in Saladin surrounding and attacking Masyaf Castle for a week. This came to an end though after an assassin snuck into Saladin's tent during the night, leaving a knife under his pillow as a threat and a warning of what could have been done. The 4th and final notable victim was the Conrad of Montefiore, the King of Jerusalem, murdered on April 28, 1192 CE. One night, while walking home from dinner, Conrad was approached by a couple of monks, or at least that's what he thought. These monk-disguised assassins approached Conrad and showed him a letter, distracting and catching him off guard before stabbing him and killing him. Overall, the Nizari Ismailis were an extremely skilled group, feared by many, who pulled off many successful missions throughout the years. Everything seemed to be going good for them. That was until 1256 CE. The great Khan of the Mongol Empire, Menghi Khan, gave his younger brother, Hulagu, an army and told him to expand the empire into the west. So in comes Hulagu and his Mongol army from the east, taking territory incredibly successfully. As he moved through the Middle East, he took most of the powerful assassin strongholds one by one, starting off with Alamut. The Mongols used siege machines and catapults armed with explosives placed on top of nearby mountaintops in order to attack and destroy the strongholds. The assassins did fight back with their own crossbows and catapults, but it wasn't enough, and the Mongols rose victorious, marking the end of the assassins. The Nizari Ismailis are still a group of Shiite Islam today, currently led by Prince Shah Karim al-Hashimi, the 49th Imam of the Nizari Ismailis. The ruined assassin strongholds still exist around the Middle East today too, becoming a good tourist destination. Finally, the popular video game franchise known as Assassin's Creed probably wouldn't exist today without the Nizari Ismailis, as it is very loosely based off of them. This franchise is one of the big reasons why the Nizari Ismailis and their old strongholds have gained popularity today.